Wow, what a game. The Vikings dominated once again. Let's talk about it in case if you were under a rock, this is what happened. Let's look at the scoring recap. On the Vikings' very first drive, looked like we could have won 3 now. It's 3rd and long. They're like, oh no, the Eagles defense is good. We can't get behind early. And then Cousins said, don't worry, and throws about a 15, 20-yard pass to Adam Thielen, first down. And we keep on marching, and we finish it the same way it started with the touchdown pass to Thielen. Extra point was good. Vikings up 7-0. On our Vikings' next offensive possession, we stall a little bit, still a pretty solid drive, ended with the field goal. So already up 10-0. Like I've said, this team is very hard to beat. If you're down 10-0, Fat Letty's starting to sing right away. The Eagles start to chip away at the lead. They get a field goal. Jake Elliott is really, really good. Connects from 53 yards out. That's 10-3. But then, the Bomba Squad comes to the football game, and Stephon Diggs with back-to-back home runs extends the lead 24-3, and all of a sudden this is looking like an absolute blowout. But hold your horses. The Eagles get a touchdown. It makes it a little bit closer, 24-10, and they're driving at the end of the half, and one of the most bizarre plays, they're in field goal range. Jake Elliott is phenomenal, and they fake it. He throws, it's picked off by Everson, and we go to the locker room up 24-10, and still a 2-touchdown game because we needed it. That could have been a huge momentum shift at the end of the half, but it was not. So beginning of the third quarter, the Eagles get the ball, and another long drive, then with the touchdown pass, Alshon Jeffrey. This one's not over. It's 24-17. All of a sudden we're having flashbacks to the Minneapolis Miracle game where we blew the lead to the Saints. Oh no, what's going on? And then the next Eagles drive, they get a field goal. It's 24-20. What's going on? But we put that in at the end of that real quick. We answer with Stephon Diggs, 3rd touchdown of the game, 31-20. And then 4th quarter, nail in the coffin, get Dalvin Cook for 1 yards. And we end it 38-20. What a game. Like I said, this is one of those games where you're like, oh no, they're going to blow it. What's going on? Oh no, not again. But they held strong, and they not only won it, they won it in style. With tons of touchdown passes, tons of good offense, and defense played good as well. So let's look at, starting on the offensive side of the ball. Famously, Kirk Cousins was called out by former linebacker of the Eagles, Zach Brown Band, and he said that he was the weakest link of the team, which honestly, probably true. Although you could probably make the case the offensive line probably still is, but we'll talk about how good they played a little bit later on. But first, Cousins played exceptionally well. 22 pass completions and only 29 attempts for 333 yards, 11.5 average, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception that was not on him, and a fantastic day for Cousins. Basically a 4-touchdown, no interception performance, and something that is not on the stat sheet. Nobody talked about it at all, but it is exceptionally important. The utmost important part of Kirk Cousins' game, he did not fumble the football. What a fantastic game for Kirk Cousins. Something that was like so scary going against a good D-line that the Eagles have. They're like, oh no, we're going to have 1 or 2 fumbles this game and a couple dumb interceptions. Cousins said, nope, I am good now. And it looks like Stefanski and crew has found an offensive scheme that not only works for Dalvin, not only works for Cousins, but works for both. And it was a great showing out for them. So the receivers, of course, Stephon Diggs. Now, he's number 1 on the receiving charts and getting all the accolades out of this game. But honestly, a bit of an up and down performance. 7 receptions, 107 yards, 23.9 average, 3 touchdowns. That's phenomenal. Especially on only 11 targets. That's not bad. But he had 2 drops and another one where Cousins also overthrew him. He could have easily had a 4-touchdown day and about 200 yards. So a lot of yards still left on the table. But are we really going to complain about a 100-yard day and 3 touchdowns? I don't think so. But we are, because he should have done better. The drop pass It was on the sideline and just went right into the arms to Anderson Dale because, of course, they'll go to the ex-Viking. Maybe Cousins put a little bit too much mustard on it. It was definitely a fastball. But Diggs, obviously, that's right, eye level, as easy as it gets. I think he would agree to that. So one that he definitely has to catch would have been a first down. Instead, it went to the Eagles, and could have been an incredible momentum shift in this game. Luckily, the rest of the team picked him up, and he also got another touchdown after that. So I think he redeemed himself. But definitely not just a perfect performance in this one by Diggs, but we'll still take it. Adam Thielen. Despite Diggs stealing the show statistically, Thielen still had a solid day with 6 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown of his own, and he only had 8 targets on the day. Kyle Rudolph got involved in the game, and it wasn't just screens for once. 3 receptions on 3 targets, 38 yards. Welcome back to the Vikings, Kyle Rudolph. Great to see. When you're running the ball well, I loved how they used him. I think this is the best game plan we've seen out of Stefanski in his whole tenure being the Vikings offensive play caller. Kyle Rudolph has chances to look like he's blocking the defensive end, and then he can slide out. Nobody's on him at all. He's wide open, gives us 10 yards, and that was so great to see. Just using Kyle Rudolph again. He's such a good, underrated weapon on this team. So fun to see. And then his upcoming replacement, Irv Smith, had a solid game as well. 2 receptions, 29 yards. My man, Bissy Johnson, 1 for 16. Then, of course, the GOAT, Laquan Treadwell, 1 reception. Welcome back. His first reception of the year goes for 15 on a 4th and 5. Laquan Treadwell said, "We're going to keep this drive together with one of his best catches as a pro." I know that's not saying a lot, but a really good catch. I mean, a tight on the sideline, toe tap catch. I mean, if it's a Stephon Diggs catch, you guys are praising him. But 4th and 5 on the garbage time of this game to Treadwell, nobody really cares. But give credit to Laquan Treadwell making a play. Welcome back. And I hope it goes good for your resume going forward. Then Dalvin Cook, 2 receptions, 12 yards, and unfortunately, no C.J. Ham receptions in this game. Dalvin Cook, 2 for 13. I was going to look at one of the touchdown plays the Eagles had. It's very similar to the Alvin Kamara touchdown pass in the divisional playoff game with the Saints, the miracle game. But the Miles Sanders touchdown catch was a little wheel route, and it was wide open stuff. I think Dalvin Cook has all the ability to make that play work, and I don't know if the Vikings would have to use it because, like the Saints, like the Eagles, the Vikings just have way too much receiving talent to maybe really dive into that well. But we use so much creativity in this game, I could see that coming up in the future. But we have a little wheel route where he goes out and up, straight down the seam, and catches a nice 30-yard touchdown. That'd be pretty cool to see. And just another weapon that other opposing defenses would have to watch out for. But running the football, Dalvin didn't have a fantastic game. 15 carries, 41 yards, 2.5 yards per carry, only along a 14. But he did enough. Against the league's leading defense as far as rushing, 41 yards is pretty solid. That they average about 60, so he almost did it all. But the guy who did it all was Alexander Madison, 14 carries for 63 yards, 4.5 pop, and a long of 35. Yeah, definitely a lot of feast and famine in this one, but along of 35, Madison looked fantastic. The Vikings ended the day with 122 rush yards against the league's best run defense. A round of applause for this Vikings offense. They ran the ball and passed the ball exceptionally well in this game. So great to see. So let's look at the Eagles, because their quarterback played really good too. Carson Wentz, such a low-key MVP candidate once again. I think 26 completions on 40 attempts for over 300 yards, 7.7 average, 2 touchdowns, 1 garbage time interception. Mackenzie Alexander looked good on that play, by the way. But the way he maneuvered in the pocket, threw the passes with good accuracy, a good game for Wentz. But the Vikings defense did definitely enough to shut him down. And then they did rush 100 yards against the Vikings as well. Jordan Howard, who's always kind of had the Vikings number, we've held him in check for the most part in this one, where he only had 13 carries for 49 yards, a 3.8 average. Boston Scott, 4 carries at 30 yards. Carson Wentz, 2 for 23. And Miles Sanders, 3 for 8. So, nobody blew us away on the stat sheet, but they had 22 carries, 108 yards. So, just enough to get over that 100-yard marker. So, I don't think Zimmer would be super pleased about that. And this is a game where we're leading for the most part anyways, so they can't really get a run game established. So if they had that early lead, that could have been a higher average and more carries overall. So a game where it doesn't look that bad individually, but they added up on the Vikings with their running game. Receivers, and I think this one's we have to look at who didn't have a good receiving game, and that is Zach Ertz. He was their leading receiver last year. I think he had over 100 receptions, the most by tight end, maybe in the history of the NFL. He was an incredibly good year for Zach Ertz last year. The Vikings held him to 4 receptions for 54 yards. Round of applause once again. On 9 targets, 5 incompletions when targeting Zach Ertz, one of the biggest receivers in the NFL. What a great game. You have to give props to guys like Jaron Kearse, who's just a tight end canceller. He's an eraser out there for tight ends. And, it's so nice to have a player that can just go out there and stop tight ends, who's historically been very good against the Zimmer defense. So, when we can also neutralize it, that's so great to see. Miles Sanders, their leading receiver yard-wise, with 3 receptions, 85 yards. That long 45-yard wheel route, like I said, would be a great play to add to Dalvin Cook's resume. And then Alshon Jeffrey had a solid game, too. He was their main receiver in this one. 10 receptions on 12 targets, 76 yards. Not a whole lot of deep balls, only as long as 26, but a lot of those little intermediate routes. And then nobody else to really look at. Dallas Goedert, 4 for 48 was their next closest guy, and then Nelson Agholor, 4 for 42. So the Vikings held them in check well enough. There was a couple guys, but when you're going against an opposing offense, and you're going against one of the best tight ends, maybe ever, but at least in the last 5 years, Zach Ertz is the guy you want to look at and say, we are not going to let this guy beat us. We did just that. This was a Patriots level of defense in this one, of not letting the best player beat us, and we did just that. So great props to the Vikings defense. And then some of the top defenders in this game, both linebackers played fantastic, Barr and Kendricks. Kendricks has been having a career year, and Anthony Barr has been really good too. Looking at the safeties, Anthony Harris, reading the field goal fake was great in that one. Both the defensive ends, great once again. Jaron Kearse, very underappreciated because he's a little bit lower on the radar for a lot of Vikings fans, but he was so good. Just being that body in the middle, keeping Zach Ertz out of this one was such an underrated part of our game success, and it's so great overall. I think this was one of the most dominating wins that we've seen out of this Vikings team. I know we've had a bunch already this year, but the combination of getting turnovers on defense, getting our explosive plays on offense, running the ball, throwing the ball, we can do it all, and this team can do it all as long as we get a little bit of consistency. 2 blowout wins in a row where Kirk Cousins was a big part of them. Let's keep the trend going on to Detroit, and we'll see you guys in the next Josie Vikings video. See you guys there.